everyone, thank you for joining me as I break down the good and the bad of Dragon Ball Super Superhero. I still think that's a dumb name, but whatever. I went into this movie with very low expectations, early reviews, and the stuff that we heard about it made me feel like it might not be as good as Dragon Ball Super Broly, which I thought was amazing. So did this meet my shallow expectations or did it ascend like a Super Saiyan? Let's start with the premise. So this movie sees the return of the Red Ribbon Army and built with two new androids, Magenta 1 and 2, and they're dedicated to destroying the Z Fighters like the androids always are. But this time Goku and Vegeta are off-world training with Wiz and Beerus and Broly and are not able to be reached. So now it's up to the rest of the Z Fighters, especially Piccolo, especially Gohan, to take on this new threat that is threatening the Earth. Let's start with the good. I feel like Dragon Ball Super Superhero encompassed all the positive aspects of the Dragon Ball series, from the original Dragon Ball series all the way up to Dragon Ball Super. And I want to shout out first the character's charm and how we love each of these characters and the unique personalities that they have. The first act of this movie is us just spending a lot of time and catching up where the characters are after Dragon Ball Super Broly, and spending a lot more time with people other than Goku and Vegeta. And most of the time they're the focus of everything. So it's nice to catch up with the supporting characters and some fan favorites like Pan, Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, and more. The second aspect of the Dragon Ball series that it captured was the world building, and this movie did even more interesting world building than Dragon Ball Super Broly did, where it fleshed out things from the past, the present, and maybe even certain things that's going to happen in the future, and callbacks done in a great way. There's some nostalgia things that happen in this movie that a lot of movies would just flop and do wrong, but I felt like this movie did it in the right way and used them for either epic moments or emotional moments, or just showing you the path of what a character is going to go on, while mixing all these different things from the different media into this movie that just kept a smile on my face, and I think will keep a smile on many Dragon Ball fans' faces. An aspect that I didn't see coming and I thought was greatly needed, we got to see things more from the villain aspect and how they view the Z Fighters in a very twisted way, in a way that we know is not right but makes sense for them to see it. And the way they incorporated the story, it made the story feel a lot better, a lot more full, and I hope they do things like this more in the future. I really loved seeing the villain's point of view and kind of just seeing the villains just do their thing. Usually we only see the villains when they're terrorizing people, but just to see some villains just chilling sometimes reminded me so much of the things that I love about the original Dragon Ball series when Goku was young. And with Dragon Ball Super Broly, that movie blew my mind with how good it was, but there's a very stark difference with that movie and this movie. That movie was a lot more serious, a lot more darker. It had a lot of melancholy infused throughout it, but still epic. This movie is on the flip side, where it has a lot of charm, it has funny, it has a lot of colorful characterization of our favorite characters. Certain things you never think Piccolo would do, he does in this movie, and it made the movie just a really fun thrill ride in a different way from Broly. While that was still a crazy epic thrill ride, it was more in a darker sense, and this one is more fun. You're gonna laugh more, there's a lot more gags, and it's done and sprinkled in really well. It never interrupts the serious moments. And I hate to keep referencing Super Broly, but it was the movie that's kind of setting the standard for Dragon Ball movies moving forward. And in that movie they introduced some 3D aspects and they mixed it in with the 2D with Dragon Ball Superhero, or Dragon Ball Super Superhero, still a dumb name. It should have just been called Dragon Ball Superhero. But with this movie, it was fully 3D, which has some major pros to it compared to just a mixture, where a lot of the field of death and how far they can push the way you see the landscape in the movie was done really well. The designs of the characters came off really smooth. The energy blasts and the power-ups and anything that dealt with that kind of stuff looked absolutely fantastic and terrific, and it really heightened some of the coolest parts of the Dragon Ball series when it comes to the action. And while I really enjoyed hanging out with the Z Fighters in the first act, and it's like being with old friends, and in the second act things started to pick up. That third act, and especially the last 30 minutes, is some of the best action and some of the most epic moments that this series has seen so far. I was cheering, I was roaring, the crowd was into it. It made the feeling feel even like extra and better. And I think that if you are a fan of Gohan, you're gonna really love what they do with the character here. And the Red Ribbon Army's androids, Magenta 1 and 2, I really enjoy them as antagonists slash protagonists. The way they put them together and their arc in the story, which is something different for Dragon Ball, where they really don't have like solid arcs in movies. The characters usually stay the same, but they did it really well here with these two. They have a lot of personality, which is cool as hell. It reminds me of like if Great Saiyaman was just dope. That's how these characters came off, which is really great since Gohan was one of the main characters in this story. It was funny seeing them juxtaposed. And other than those two being standouts, I think Piccolo was a really big standout. If you are a fan of this character, you are going to love him throughout. He's in the majority of the movie. I could say that he might be just the main character of the movie. He's funny, he roasts people, he's epic, he comes up with plans. He just did everything like he always has done in the Dragon Ball series. He was the general. He was the guy that stepped up, that led the team while Goku and Vegeta were just off-world and not be able to be reached. And I really enjoyed what they did and how they leveled him up. Now let's talk about the bad. So while I said in the good section that the 3D animation has some major pros, it has some minor cons, with one being the hair on the characters, which is a very big focal point of the Dragon Ball series. Some of the hairstyles and the way the hair turns to Super Saiyan transformation is a big part of how we see the characters. Looked a little plastically, especially when certain transformations happen. So hopefully in the future they're able to fix that aspect and make it look a little bit more natural, or maybe make that part 2D. I don't know how that would work, but it didn't look terrible, but it didn't look as good. That was one aspect of the 3D that I was like, this is not much better than the 2D art style. And one thing that Super Broly had that this didn't was they had some really cool camera angles and during the fight sequences, and the way they did the POV. Lost is that here with the 3D. I think that they were so focused on maxing that out and doing that well, they didn't do some of the creative things that were in that last movie. I know it's two different directors, but hopefully this director can put some of that stuff in the next version of this movie, or the next time they do a Dragon Ball movie, because I still think they did a great job, but it's just the direction in that movie was much better when it came to action. Let's talk about my verdict. So even though that Dragon Ball Superhero is a dumb name, it is not a dumb movie. It is an epic movie. It's a charming movie. It's a fun movie. It's funny as hell throughout. I didn't expect to laugh so much throughout the movie, but not for it to not take away. I forgot how funny Dragon Ball and that series could be. It has some really cool callbacks and some tie-ins to the video games and different things that you will enjoy if you're really in tune with everything, and also some surprise that should not be spoiled. I hope you go to see this movie and get to see a lot of cool things. I know that the transformations kind of got spoiled. If you didn't get to see them, don't look for them. Go check them out in this movie. They're even better than the leaks, and there's other stuff that didn't get leaked that's really dope. So with that said, I think this is one of the best Dragon Ball things I've gotten ever, and I'm gonna give it a B+. Comment your thoughts down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Dragon Ball Superhero? This is such a weird name. Kira Toriyama, what were you thinking? Drop all those comments down below and let me know what you thought. Like the video if you like my reviews. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. It really helps the channel to grow. We're almost at 300 subscribers, and I really want to get there, and I'm doing a Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, you could drop those questions in the comments below, or you can email me. I'll put the email on the screen, and you can watch more of my reviews, reactions, and other content right now.